It's that time again. If you're a real estate agent and you're looking to finally build a business that creates consistent cash flow, but you're concerned about all the market disruptions, relax. You found your safe haven to learn the secret to success. List you last. Welcome to this week's podcast. Hey, welcome, fellow listing agents. Bob Mangold, the listing coach here with episode 14 of the If You List, You Last podcast. Now, this week we're going to have some fun because we're going to talk about the 5 biggest reasons most agents are not taking listings in today's market. Now, that's going to be a ton of fun to review with you because if you'll take those 5 steps and turn them into action, you're going to completely change your business. Now, as always, make sure you join our Real Estate Asset Advisors Facebook group so you can join the conversation, share your thoughts, give some comments, pass along some ideas, or maybe even just questions you have on any of the topics I discuss on the podcast. Last week, we had a ton of questions on different objections, and I was happy to answer those. And I'm going to actually create a podcast on answering those objections. So if you have a topic or a conversation you want me to discuss on the show, hey, just go over to the Facebook group and share your request. And if you need any help in your business, feel free to schedule a no-cost consultation with me. And you can go to www.brainstormwithbob.com to schedule that. Now, let's get into this week's mortgage market update. So again, one of the reasons that we talk about the mortgage industry or the mortgage market is because it has a huge impact on the real estate market, right? It's holding people back from selling and things of that nature. Higher interest rates make it less affordable. So we need to have an understanding of what's going on. Now, last week, we had jobs numbers come out. And in midweek, we had ADP and Challenger Gray come out and say, no, there was only about 170,000 jobs created. But on Friday, the BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics, came out and said 353,000 jobs were created. How can those 3 different reports vary so widely? And most importantly, why is that important for the real estate market? The reality is, folks, on Friday, when the BLS numbers came out, it totally spooked the mortgage-backed securities market, and you've seen interest rates rose, and between then and now, interest rates are up almost 0.5%. Now, what's important to understand is the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in 11 of the 12 reports from last year, the numbers were always revised down. So unfortunately, what happens is we make these announcements on a Friday, and then a month later, we come and go, oh, we were off on that by 100,000 jobs. Last year, it was over 750,000 jobs in the jobs report that were revised down, meaning they were off by 750,000 jobs over the course of the year. So at the end of the day, we can talk about why the government does that and all that, and none of it's good, but it had a huge impact on the interest rates that people are paying to buy a house. That affects you because that's going to be less people buying it because the affordability is so difficult. Now, when you actually look at those job numbers, number one, that's, one of the things that's stark is all the government did is they made what they called as a seasonal adjustment, meaning they just literally adjusted the numbers. And if you would have left the numbers as they were without the seasonal adjustments, we would have actually lost jobs in that month. But we just adjusted so that it looked better. Now they'll work on revising those down. The other thing that's important to understand, there's really 2 more points that are important. Number one, the number of full-time jobs is dropping and the number of part-time jobs is increasing. And what that does is it takes and factors into the average hourly rate or the average earnings per person. Meaning if jobs went down or hours worked went down from, I think it was 34.3 to 34.1, you go, that's not a big deal. That would be equivalent to losing 2.4 million jobs because of the amount of income that's lost. So it does have a huge impact on people. What that says is, let's just take them at face value on their numbers and that we're adding jobs, but people are making less money and inflation is still, was it at 9% like it was a couple of years ago? It's not. It's at about 3.5%. But if your wages are going down and inflation is going up, that leaves you less money to be able to spend on housing. And then it just came out today that a record $1.4 trillion is being held on credit cards. So clearly that's going to impact the housing market. And I believe, in my opinion, it's important that real estate agents can explain this stuff to consumers. And guys, it also takes and makes you sound like an expert. So spend a little bit of time studying these things and understand how it works, because the consumer is expecting you to be an expert. Doesn't mean you need to be an economist, but you do need to be an expert. So at the end of the day, there's some things that you have to do to be able to follow this and be able to take and intelligently talk with people about what's going on in the economy. Make sense? So now let's get to this week's topic. But before we start that, I want to read an email that a friend of mine sent out to his team. He's got a very large team. And he sent this out, and I just thought it should resonate with people as we talk about why we're not getting listings. And he said, it's interesting to note that winners and losers share the same goals. So clearly the difference is not in the goal, it's in the action. You need to read that twice. It's not your goals, it's your action. Are you going to truly protect your 2 hours today? What's he referring to? He said, will you dominate 2 hours where nobody other than you is in control? 2 hours where if the rest of the day went haywire, it still would have been a highly productive day. For agents, that time is to sit and dominate your pipeline follow-up and smart lists, and then create new business with the remaining time. Now, if you get into this email, if you get into email, client needs, etc., prior to doing that, you'll just end up not doing it. This from past experience, I'm just providing a reminder. This is a very simple business. Dominate 2 hours consistently, day in and day out, like a well-trained muscle, and everything else will fall into place. And if you won't truly protect and execute on a measly 2 hours during war times like these, then that's a personal reflection that you ought to have with yourself. Some successful people I study protect 7 hours. Some protect 4. They can still put in a full afternoon. But I'm just encouraging you to start at 2 hours. How many phone calls do you believe in action? How many phone calls do you believe an active agent should be making every day between follow-up and prospecting? 20, 30, 40? This is how soft the industry has become. The standard in my day coming up into business was 20 conversations a day, not 20 calls. Those are two different things. 20 conversations. If you dial the phone 20 times and only one person picks up that you talk to, that's not a conversation. Now, go look at your activity report. It'll answer many questions for you. The good news is today's a new day, a new week at the start of a new month, and even better than that, you're in full control. The decision is yours. The time is now. So I thought that was an amazing email to send out as a reminder to his people about protecting those 2 hours a day. Because what we're going to talk about today almost falls into that 2 hours a day. And what do you do in those 2 hours a day? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 5 reasons, in my opinion, why agents are not taking listings in today's market. And we're going to start with number 5, and we're going to count down to number 1. Fair enough? So reason number 5, you don't know what to say to get an appointment. More importantly, you're saying the same thing as any other agents, right? You hire the same coaches that have been around for 50 years. You have the same scripts that are out there. You download it. Clickbait in Facebook groups is, hey, download my free FSBO script or my free scripts. And guys, it's the same script that everybody else has. And if they work so well, we'd be taking listings, wouldn't we? The important thing is that even if you had bad scripts, but you protected your 2 hours a day and you were calling and talking to people, it would work out differently. And so the problem is we don't know what to say to get an appointment, and then we sound like every other agent. Let me give you an example of a FSBO call. Hi, this is Bob with eXp Realty. Hey, the reason I'm calling, I wanted to see if your house is still available. Everybody says that. They're inundated the first few days their house hits in the market with, is it still available? And they'll go, yes, it is. And you'll go, great. I may have buyers for your home. When could I stop by and take a look at it? It's the oldest strategy in real estate. The problem is it's not particularly effective. So you have to understand a couple things. They know you don't have a buyer, but you don't have a buyer. So when you actually go into the house, how is it that you strategically pivot the conversation? Because you can't say, listen, I lied to you, I don't have a buyer. to say, let me talk about selling your home. That's a pretty difficult pivot, isn't it? And so what we did is we started out with a lie. We don't have a buyer for the house. Oh, we might have a database, but we don't have a buyer. They know it and you know it. So why do they let you in? You think they're letting you in because maybe he really does? The answer is they don't. The most important thing they're trying to determine from the agent that they just let into their house is, what do you think of their price? Because they got theirs from Zillow. They want somebody to drill down, and then they let all these agents come in and give their opinion of price. That's why they really let you in. And if you doubt that, guys, one of the reasons or one of the ways that I know that is when I found out early on that really didn't work, I'd say, why did you let me in? And they go, I just want to know what you thought of the price. So they'll tell you if you ask that, and they'll tell you they know you don't have a buyer. So what if we changed what we said to people? And we were upfront with them. And so here's what I mean by that. What if I called, and again, I'm going to give you the tonality and the pause and the inflection and everything, and the pacing of an actual call. And you'll see that it's different and it's designed to be that way. And call goes something like this. Hey, John, this is Bob Mangold. Hey, my records show this morning that your home is no longer available. Is that correct? You notice how, first of all, I stumbled a little bit, and then I made it sound like, hey, this is Bob Mangold. Like you're going to know who I am. That throws them off balance. And then I go, hey, my records show this morning that your home's no longer available. Is that correct? What do you think their instant reaction is? No, it's still available. Where did you see that? So what I did is, it's called pattern interrupt. I simply interrupted the way that they think about that call happening. And I go, I have a service that gathers this data from different online sources. So you may want to check where you've placed ads for your home and make sure that they're showing as active. So that now calms them down. I'm surprised that the house looks like it's a pretty nice house. Of course, you have to say that if you've seen pictures of the house and it looks fairly nice. If it does not look really nice, don't say that. But then I go, interesting. Let me ask you this. Would you be opposed if I was able to take and bring buyers to your property and get you an offer, at least what you're asking and maybe more? Would you be opposed to offering the standard 3% finder's fee if I was able to do that? Notice the tonality, the pacing, the words. Would you be opposed? Who's going to say, would you be opposed? Now, the way that we list homes with the Home Boss process, which again, you could go listen to episode 2 and see how we do that. But if they go, I'm not willing to pay an agent any commission, we just go, hey, that's no problem. Would it be okay if I had the buyer pay it? And then they're like, you can do that? Yes. And if you change the way that you approach people and you change the language, I just said, would you be opposed to me showing you how we could get buyers for your house and that are willing to pay you what you're asking or even more? I now got your attention, don't I? And I didn't say I had buyers for you. I said, if I would be able to do that, I can do that when I list their property and my fee is 3%. And I do have the buyer pay another agent if they do it. So I can go into a listing appointment or a FSBO in that scenario, and they're fully expecting me to talk about selling their house. Now, the way that we do it is we just go, hey, great. If you're open to that, would it be okay? I need to spend a little bit of time to do some research on your house, see how many buyers are looking for homes exactly in your price range and size and all of that, and then go through my database and see who we might market to so that we can drive the price of your house up. Are you available at 4:00 that we could jump on Zoom and then we could walk through that process from there? And folks, 99% of the time they say yes. You'll hear, could we do it now? And I don't have all that data, and I'm sure you can understand. I talk to everybody who's trying to sell a house on their own, and I don't do the research prior to calling. I just want to find out if they'd be open to getting more money for their house. And then you go, oh, okay, sure, 4:00, or I can't do 4, could we do 5, something like that. Then we literally have a listing presentation that we do on Zoom, and we've never even gone to their house. So do you see why knowing what to say and then being different is important? So you got to start from there. Reason number 4, you don't have a strategic listing presentation. And you go, that's different language. What is strategic listing presentation? Almost all listing presentations are designed around you wooing the client, potential client, with how wonderful you are. Oh my gosh, let me share with you my family. And this is why I work hard the way that I do, because I need to feed my little children. And let me show you how many homes I've sold. And let me show you how long I've been in the business. And let's talk about my company. And let me show you how many different websites I'm going to put you on. Folks, at the end of the day, that's not strategic. They don't care. They simply only care about three things. How much are you going to get for my house? How fast can you do it? And what are you going to do to make the process not be terrible? I'm sure if you've listened to any of the podcasts or seen any of the classes I teach, I always refer to the Core Logic study done about a year ago that showed 77% of people are willing to take between 5 and 10% less for their home simply to avoid the hassles and headaches of an old-fashioned listing that a real estate agent does. So 2 things to think about, folks. When sellers tell you that 3 out of 4 would take, let's just use the median price of a home, $400,000, that they would take between $20,000 and $40,000 less to not have to sell a house the way you want to do it. And then we have sellers suing us for the commission. I think we should agree that there's some holes in how we sell properties, and we should look at a different way to do it. Your listing presentation, in my opinion, simply needs to contain those 3 things. What's your process for getting me the most money? How are you going to eliminate my hassles and headaches? And how fast can we get it done? And if you don't answer, that's where you're going to find that they come up with objections, and they'll go, I did talk to another agent and they said they were going to mail postcards and do Facebook ads. I didn't hear you talk about that. Or they were going to do it at a reduced commission. If you walk into a listing presentation and you don't answer those 3 questions, the likelihood of you getting that listing are probably less than 50-50. Now, what's important, or one of the things that I notice in all these real estate Facebook groups, you'll see somebody post, and it's just in case you don't know this, guys, this is people trying to build clickbait. Hey, if you'd like a copy of my listing presentation, just give me your email, comment below and give me your email. Those folks are just building a database, folks, of real estate agents, just so you know. And when you get the presentation that they have, it's the same old stuff. Nobody's invented anything new in listing presentations until we came along with HomeBoss 7 years ago. It's the same stuff. Tell them about your family. Tell them about you. Tell them how good you are. Tell them how long you've been in the neighborhood. They don't care. So you've got to have a listing presentation. Ours is 12 slides long. And the only reason we use slides is because we do it on Zoom. And in 12 slides, we can get their listing on Zoom. So when you have a strategic, well thought out, with the proper verbiage and the proper close, which I gave to you on last week's podcast, you're going to have more success. Now, reason number 3, lack of a targeted database of likely sellers. So agents say, hey, I have this 2 hours, but I don't know who to talk with. And so I've done classes, the Elevated Business Briefing. I did a whole class on who you should be talking to and how you find them. And so if you don't have a database of those people, not just a database of people likely to sell, but what about referral partners that work in their arena, right? So people getting divorced. What if you had relationships with divorced attorneys? So what if you're actually calling divorce attorneys? But let me give you a hint. This isn't what you do. Hi, this is Bob with eXp Realty. Hey, the reason I was calling is to see if you have a realtor that you're able to refer people out to. They don't want to hear that. Hey, this is Bob. I work with, I'm a local agent, and I work with a lot of people getting divorced. And I'm just wondering how it's going for you when you refer out a client to a realtor. Are they happy with the success they get? And is it reflecting positively on your law firm? And I just wanted to see if there's something I could do to help you. You call to be a resource. You don't call to sell. And so if you don't have a list of those people, not only sellers, but referral partners, then you're not going to know how to fill your 2 hours a day, are you? Reason number 2, not dedicating and controlling your 2 hours a day. It's that simple, guys. We start out, we go, hey, let me get into my email first so that I get into the right frame of mind. What you need to understand, when you start doing that, you take yourself out of the right frame of mind. If you put yourself in the frame of mind of, hey, who can I help today? When I do role playing with my agents and in my group or coaching students, I remind them that the most important thing that they need to understand, if these people have a house to sell, they have a problem to solve, and you can help solve that problem. For us, we know we have a proven process so we can get them the highest price, the highest market value guaranteed is how we phrase it. We can get it done in 14 days, and it's half the cost of an old fashioned real estate transaction. So we know we have the ability to do that, and we can solve their problem. Stop worrying about how they react to you, if they're hostile or not, and focus on I can help them with their problems. So the minute you start doing emails and other things is the minute you get out of your mind frame of being able to take and help people today. So if we started saying, who can I help today? I have to help 20 people. No, in all honesty, I tell people 10. If you have 10 conversations a day with targeted likely sellers or referral partners, you're going to have a great business. So it doesn't matter if it's 10 or 20 because the average agent usually has none. But if you don't control those 2 hours a day and you don't block those out and you don't start your day doing that instead of reading emails and let me work on this or let me work on that, what I recommend to everybody is that they spend some time practicing. But if you can't control those 2 hours a day and you're not talking to those people, folks, your business is not going to go anywhere. And then reason number one, the Mac Daddy of them all, is that agents will not role play to get comfortable, which causes them to be afraid to pick up a phone. And I can tell you this because the agents that I coach, I will just, in the middle of a coaching session, I'll go, okay, we're going to role play now, and I'm going to pick somebody. Do you know those agents won't unmute themselves simply because they're afraid to role play with me? Here's the thing, folks. If you don't practice being able to take and say things over the phone and do it in a conversational tone, and you don't practice on using the right language, you're going to just get on a phone and call somebody and you're going to mess up. You're going to do that once or twice and you're going to go, wow, this doesn't work. That was painful. When in fact, it does work. And I'm going to give you a caveat, folks. If you just say, hey, listen, there's no way I can pick up a phone. I'm not doing it. Just admit that it's not in your DNA. That's okay. Then you better go knock on 10 doors that day. If you want to go knock on a FSBO's door and say the same thing, great. The problem with that is when they go, yeah, come on in and tell me about it. Now you're locked into that. But if you're prepared for it, then that's okay too. But whatever it is, folks, you have to talk to 10 people a day and you have to practice that. Now, here's my question for you. Just logically, does it make sense to spend time practicing when there's no money at risk? What do I mean by that? If you're practicing with another agent, a spouse, or somebody else, there's no commission, there's no listing at stake. But the minute you go and talk to somebody, let's say that $400,000 house at 3%, there's a $12,000 commission available to you. Why would you wait until there was money at risk to practice your craft so that you could sound comfortable, so that it sounded conversational, so that you're not sitting there waiting for somebody to throw an objection at? And what you're doing is you're talking, but then you don't let them answer. And when they do answer, you're not listening because you're ready to pounce with your objection buster. Instead of doing something like that, when they say, I don't want to pay a commission, say, listen, I understand, but could you expound on that a little bit more? Like, why are you so adamant about not doing that? You're getting them talking. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to net as much money and et cetera, et cetera. So why do you think that? Why do you think you won't net more money? Because I'm not going to pay that commission. Consider this. Notice the pause in there. Well, consider this. If I have more buyers to bring to your house and I can attract more attention to your property, which through my network of agents, through my network of databases of people that are renting homes and apartments in this area, through all those different arrangements that I have to draw a traffic to your home, can we agree that I could create more competition for your home than you can? Basically, you're doing that right now and you're having like one or two people call you. The key to success in selling almost anything, not just real estate, is to create competition for your product. If I can create competition, and let's say we do an open house and we have, let's say, 100 people, depending on the size of your market. If we had 100 people in there, can we agree I'm going to get more competition for your house? And if I had a system to be able to let people pay more for the house that you don't have available, would it be appropriate for us to consider looking at that? Notice I didn't pounce on and say, well, that's stupid, the average FISBO. Because see, here's the answer that all the gurus are teaching you. Oh, did you know that only 7% of the property sold last year for sale by owners? And you know that they got 83% of the price that the real estate agent got? And do you know what their answer is? And it's always been this, and it always will be. Really, where'd you get those numbers from? And you go, National Association of Realtors. Oh, okay. So the association that's trying to get me to pay commissions is telling me that I'm not going to get it. Yeah, good advice. And how do I know people say that, folks? Because when I first started out using, that's what people said to me. Oh, yeah, I believe that. Just like I believe the Bureau of Labor Statistics on job numbers, right? So you went down a rabbit hole that you can't win. And when you role play, your job, if you're the player, the person who's acting as the customer, your job is to be as difficult as possible, to fluster, to put as much pressure as you can on the person that's acting as the salesperson. The reason is because that's how you make people better. You're not doing it to be mean. You're doing it to make them better. Does that make sense? So I'm not doing it to be mean, because what you'll find, and here's the most amazing thing to me, for all agents that I have that make calls and do this, everybody thinks that every FISBO is hostile and angry. And the truth is, it's about 1 or 2% that are. Most of them are fairly affable and willing to talk. And if you say the right things, they're definitely willing to talk. So what happens is you prepare people that you're working with, that you're role playing with, for the worst case scenario. And then when it's better, they go, wow, that was easy. So that's your responsibility in role playing. It's not to be easy. It's not to be a pushover. It's to be as difficult as possible so that they can learn to relax and just have a conversation. What you'll find is when you learn to relax, you'll actually listen to what the person says. And then when you understand how to deflect some of that, and they go, oh, I don't want to pay a commission. Oh, that's no problem at all. What are they thinking when you say that? Hey, that's no problem at all. What agent says that? And so it disarms them. And when you learn to be skilled at those things, then that's when you start to have results and you don't freak out about it. Oh, that's no problem. Would it be okay then if I got the buyer to pay the commission? And what every seller says, I don't care who you get to pay as long as it's not me. Awesome. We have a solution for that. Could I take a minute and share that with you? You see how you're able to take and deflect? The reason we can do that, folks, is if you'll role play, you become comfortable in being conversational. In the days of the world has changed, the way we react to things. So we read all these old books and stuff about, hey, give them the Ben Franklin close and the pros and cons and the 3-step close and all these magnificent things. Folks, when you put pressure on people, however you do it, then they don't respond well to that. That's when they blow you off and go, oh, I'm being pressured. Let me back off. You make their guard go up. If you learn to get good at dropping their guard with them, because you're comfortable and relaxed, you're going to have a lot more success in talking to people. And folks, I will just tell you, in my opinion, the only way to do that is to role play with somebody. Now, you can do it when money's at stake if you want. I just don't see the logic in it. Do you? And so I would tell you the number one reason isn't that people won't make the phone calls or they won't talk to them, because technically that's the number one reason. But the reality of it is, the reason is they don't know the right things to say and they won't role play it. So they get comfortable in doing that. And when you do get comfortable, I'm just going to tell you, your results are going to change dramatically. And so you don't have to be afraid to pick up the phone. I've got one of my agents who was very good at it a couple of years ago and really got away from it. And I talked to him a little bit. We role played through this and I got him comfortable in talking to people. He did it again. And he literally posted in our Facebook group that he took 3 listings yesterday, 3 yesterday, because he got comfortable again. He goes, gosh, I can't figure out, why did I stop doing this? And part of the reason is we get away from our comfort and we get away from controlling those 2 hours of the day because he's a pretty good producer. So it's easy to justify, well, why I'm not controlling my 2 hours a day. And so those are the top 5 reasons, folks. Not knowing what to say to get an appointment or sounding like every other agent. Or number 4 is not having any strategic listing presentation. You don't have a plan when you go into the house. Lack of a targeted database of likely sellers and referral partners, because it's easy to say talk to 10 or 20 people a day, but if you don't have anybody to talk to, how do you do that? Reason number 2, not dedicating and controlling your 2 hours a day. And in my opinion, the number 1 problem, not role playing, be comfortable so that you're not afraid to pick up a phone. So I hope that helps. Now, don't forget to jump on our biweekly Elevate Business Briefings every other Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can go to www.elevatebusinessbriefings.com, right? It's that plural, briefings.com. Because, well, this Wednesday, I'm going to cover how to do an effective open house. Because our open houses, again, our record is 1,224 people. Don't expect that everywhere. But we average, depending on market size, in a very small market, we could get 35 to 50 people in a market of 5,000 people or 10,000 people. Bigger markets, we can get 200 to 300. Really good size markets, 500, 800. So today I'm going to teach how do we do that, because isn't that a great lead generation opportunity? Isn't that a great opportunity to take more listings? So that's what I'm covering on this week's Elevate Business Briefings. And if you want more detailed information on the Home Boss process and how we use it, download the version of my book at ifyoulistyoulast.com, right? So everything that I'm talking about in these podcasts is in that book. So go ahead and do that. So download the book and, more importantly, read the darn thing. And I promise if you start to implement this stuff, you'll take a lot more listings. So we'll talk to you next week. And remember, if you list, you'll last. Talk to you next week.